here in South Africa, when I tell people that I live in Khayelitsha, their jaws drop. They've never been there. It's kind of off limits to them in their mind. There's so much fear around being able to go, being able to be safe, being welcomed. And it's the same in Chicago. There's a lot of fear around people being able to actually go to different neighborhoods. But the thing that breaks that is actually having a connection or a relationship with someone who's receiving you and knowing you're here as my guest. But it does take time to develop that kind of friendship, and people have to be vulnerable and to not know what's going to happen, but to trust that this person you've met wants the best for you, you want the best for them, and that your actions continue to reinforce that. It was a really nice childhood. Naperville was ranked like #1 place to raise your children. But I grew up with a family that really advocated and supported learning outside of the classroom, which often was traveling or just going to different communities and experiencing people. Both my parents are very extroverted in being able to talk to everybody, and that there is no, maybe, someone has a different type of job, but you still talk to them, they have a story, and that's where a lot of the learning comes from. So that was a very foundational piece of how I grew up, that you only can learn so much, and really the exponential learning is when you connect with people and kind of see yourself reflected. In 2nd grade, my best friend developed pancreatic cancer. That was just a really big moment of kind of understanding life, and it's short, and there's things that are hard to explain. And I got really curious and interested in health and community and just how to help people have a better quality of life. I had organized the first AIDS education peer program at my high school, and really got highly involved with organizing in my school around diversity issues, health issues. Through my mom, met a gentleman who founded an organization called Play for Peace, and their aim is to train young people in facilitation skills using cooperative play and laughter as a way of connecting people. They plan these play days in neutral areas between communities, and then the youth come to play, but often the parents are there too, or adults, and they can't help but respond to seeing their children laughing when maybe it's actually, the road that separates them is deadly. But they're seeing their young people being able to cross that, and it inspires a different direction. Around when I was 16, I started working with them, and it kind of became my life. In '99, the Parliament of the World's Religions had a Millennium Peace Conference, and they chose Cape Town for healing purposes, with the end of apartheid happening in 1994. So we had about 35 youth from all over the world. 3.5 weeks we all lived together, cooked our meals together, and planned play days in the township areas, which were labeled that during apartheid. And it was very transformative, getting to meet all these other young people who shared a very similar passion and commitment through the work they were doing. I was sitting in our dorm and showing a few of my friends who are from Khayelitsha, showing them pictures of my family, where I'm from, my friends, and they see a picture from maybe a homecoming dance, and they say, "Is this your wedding?" And I said, "No. It's, this dance we do like twice, 2 or 3 times a year, and we buy these dresses and we spend this money." And I started kind of spiraling, like not understanding. I know where they're coming from and what resources they have available and don't have available, and it was difficult to really have to, in one moment, see both of those things and have to somehow negotiate a place to be. They kind of saw that and responded by saying, it's not about having those things and even just giving them up, because that doesn't make anything better. It's actually knowing what you've been given and doing something with that. I've kept in touch with a lot of those peers that I met in South Africa, and we've developed family. We've kind of adopted each other over the last 12 years. It's interesting that I feel so at home with my family here in Khayelitsha, and they can feel at home with my family in Naperville. My undergrad was studying cross-cultural communication and how people take in messages, how people learn, how where you grow up and where you are affects how you see yourself, how you see the world, and then thus the decisions you make. Facilitating is a lot of improv and having to pay attention to the needs of your participants and going with that, because it's most important to respond to what people's needs are, and in order to do that you have to listen really, really well. Every day it's recommitting, what's your purpose? Why are you here? What have you been given and what can you do with it? I mean, being good is an interesting thing in itself, good and bad. Sometimes I have a little trouble with those two dichotomies because there's a lot more to it, but I think like a person of integrity to me is somebody whose values and character are in alignment with their actions, no matter where they are, who they're with, who's watching. How someone treats other people says everything to me. How they order their food, whether they expect things or, they come from a place of entitlement. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person, it's just, I really believe we're in a spiral process, every person. Some people are working a lot harder to move up the spiral. Some are just okay where they're at. They're not really challenging themselves to be introspective and understand what the experiences they have in life mean for them. Gathering experience isn't enough. It's taking the time to reflect. What does it mean about you? What does it mean about other people? What does it mean about the world you're in? And those are difficult questions because sometimes we have to face darker parts of ourselves. We have both inside of us, dark and light. Every day we get to choose which one we're going to feed. I believe inherently all people have that goodness, and that's what I see when I see people. I see potential. I see all their goodness. Sometimes they don't even see it. And I see it, my role when I meet people is to try to invite it out. Because there's so many places that it gets shut down, that it's not safe for people to actually be who they are and be a good person. Like, it's not safe for them to be a good person. What needs to happen for people to actually be who they are? And it means having a supportive group of people you're being seen the way you want to be seen, and even just having one experience ever of that can be very transformative for someone, being able to know that's what they're trying to, the path that they want to be on. I'm